weeks ago, I was asked by Chris West I'd like to give my testimony, and sure, because been through a lot here the last 5, 6 months, which most of y'all know. But if you haven't, we'll get into it a little bit. But as far as my Christianity, start out, I was baptized as a senior in high school, and it was one of those deals where I'm sitting in church, and one day sitting up with my buddies, and decided, I don't want to go to hell. I'm going to be baptized. So I went down front, and a week later I was baptized. Well, I wasn't any more saved than a man on the moon, to be totally honest with you. I went in dry and I came out wet. That's it. And nothing in my life had changed at that point. And then got married and started going back to church, and felt being drawn closer to the Lord. And in 2006, I was rebaptized. I had some stuff going on, and I was driving one night, and it just hit me, and I pulled off on the side of the road, and just started crying, and asked the Lord to come into my life, and I felt as close to God as I've ever felt. And but after that, as time went on, you kind of get complacent, and you think, yeah, I'm doing this on my own. You kind of get further, or I did, kind of got further away, thinking, I can pretty much do this on my own. And you find out in a hurry that you can't. Going to fast forward to 2020. Found a knot on my neck, and in July 17th, found out it was cancer. And you talking about getting knocked on your knees. Went straight to my knees. But the weird thing about it is I always had a calm about it. My wife, Nanette, we both always had a calm about it. I wasn't concerned. Yeah, it's cancer, but it's out of my hands. At that point, it's out of my hands. It's in my doctor's hands. It's in the Lord's hands. And we had a peace about it, and it's kind of weird, because when you hear those 6 letters, cancer, scares you. I mean, it scares you, and I'm sure some of you have been touched by cancer at some point, a family member, a friend, or someone. But it knocks you to your knees. It really does. And then it turned out to be tonsil cancer. and it was a weird type of cancer, neuroendocrine, whatever that is. It's not your normal tonsil cancer. It was something that maybe 2,500, 3,000 people a year get that. And but again, we had a calm about us. On July 23rd, I had my tonsil taken out, and the doctor that did it just happened to be it's strange. It happened to be my wife's ex-brother-in-law in Lexington, Michael Cecil, and Mike told us that they sent the biopsy off, sent it off, did all that stuff, and he gave us he sent us to Dr. Valentino over at UK, and we went and met with him, and he was wanting to do surgery and all this stuff, and was talked out of it by his oncologist and his radiologist, and they said we can treat it with just radiation and chemo. But I've always felt that God had His hands on us and on this situation, and I'll give you some examples as I go on. But there was one morning or one evening, we're sitting there getting ready to eat supper, and we're talking about, maybe is this the right move for Dr. Valentino to handle this, because he's wanting to cut me from ear down. And we're sitting there talking, and I said, look, why don't you just call Michael and ask him to make sure this is what he wants us to do. And no sooner than I said that, our phone rang. It was Michael. And he assured us that this doctor was the best going. And so we trusted him, and we went with that. So we got to August, and decided, well, we're going to do a treatment here at Pikeville because of our support system, and it really didn't matter where we did our treatment. I ended up having to have 33 rounds of radiation and 6 rounds of chemo, 3 days a week for 3 days every 3.5 weeks, 2.5 weeks. But August was a blur to us, because that's when I was doing all my scans, all my lab work, tests, all that stuff. Had a chemo port put in, which is still in. I want that thing out. Have a feeding tube in right now because I'm not eating like I need to. But we'll get there. We will get there. But I'm in my doctor's office here in Pikeville, and he's the one who sent me down to UK. Well, Dr. Reed, Mark Reed, is a good friend of mine, and I'm sitting in his office, and on the wall there's a poster, and Mark had gone through some cancer issues of his own, and he's in remission right now, but he had gone through some cancer stuff on his own, and there was a poster on his wall. So I'm sitting there looking at that poster and started reading it. It was Isaiah 41:10. And I started reading it, and it says, "Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will give you strength. I will help you. I will hold you up with my righteous right hand. And I started reading that over and over, and I thought, man, that's awesome. That is awesome. And I got to thinking, got to looking, and in the Bible, do not fear is in there 365 times. How many days are in a year? 365. So what's that telling you? If you're a Christian, 365 days a year, don't be afraid. I mean, the one God has you, has your back. Don't be afraid. And I just thought, man, that's awesome. That is awesome. And so I asked Mark, I said, hey, can I steal this from you? He said, sure. So I kind of took it from him, and it's strange because that Bible verse pops up to me all the time, whether on Facebook, Twitter, if I'm doing a devotional, that verse pops up, and I just think, man, that's awesome. That is awesome. So we get to September, and I'm getting ready to start my treatments. And every night, man, before we would go to bed, I love going outside in my backyard and just looking at the stars, looking at the trees, just listening to nature out there. And every night I'd go out there and I'd hit my knees. Every night. I'm in my yard on my knees, just asking God to be with me and just reminding him, you know, your word says, I will never leave you nor forsake you. And don't think I didn't remind him. Every day, hey dude, you know, never leave me or forsake me. And so I'm out there praying every night. And it got to where, you know, Zoe touched on this earlier at one of the FCA meetings about the woman that was bleeding for 12 years. And, you know, her faith, Jesus walked by, she touched his garment. Right? She touched his garment, and he stopped and realized something just happened. And that she touched his garment knowing with her faith that would heal her. And so, you know, I'm out there every night. Jesus, you know, God, I'm touching Jesus' garment. I'm touching. Because I have faith that he's going to heal me. And so, you know, that went on, and, you know, and there was a couple of times when, you know, I love going out, like I said, looking up and trying to see shooting stars. And so there were 2 nights in a row I was out there praying, and I got up, and after I prayed, I got up and was looking around in the sky. 2 nights in a row, I see a shooting star. And I'm thinking, man, that's awesome. You know, God's talking to me. God's speaking to me. And during the month, when I couldn't sleep, I would get up and go outside and just sit. And I would just pray and pray. And couple of times I'm out there, and, you know, I'm praying, and as soon as I finish praying, I look up, and there goes a little fawn in my backyard. right across my backyard, white spots and all. And I'm thinking, you know, that's awesome. And this is kind of strange because have y'all ever heard of cardinals being sent from heaven? Have y'all heard that? Well, to this day, when all this started in September, we have had a cardinal come up and sit on our windowsill in our living room and just peck on our window. And it doesn't do it every day. It does it when I need it. It does it before a test. It does it before a scan. It does it before surgery. It'll come up. It'll just sit on our windowsill and just peck. And it's the craziest thing. And I honestly feel like it's a sign. It's a sign from God just saying, "Hey, I'm here. I want to take care of you." And it just gives us comfort. So there was a lot of times when I couldn't sleep, and I'm laying in bed, and man, you know, you don't understand how humble you get when you can't do anything for yourself. So, you know, I would lay in bed, and when Nan's sleeping beside me, and she doesn't know this, she's hearing it for the first time, but I would lay my hand over top of her, put my hand over top of her, and just pray. Just thank God for her, and just pray that He would give her strength, and He would bless her to get through this with me, because I didn't do it by myself. I can promise you that I did not do it by myself. So we get to October, and October was, without a doubt, the worst month I've ever had in my life. I'm in the middle of my radiation. I'm in the middle of chemo. And the radiation is on my neck. I can't talk. I can't eat. I went 3 weeks without a bite of food. Just nothing but fluid. I mean, I was absolutely, I was sure that the radiation was going to kill me. I was positive. And I prayed, God, just take me. Take me. I mean, it's not worth what I'm going through. And His answer was no. You know, I have bigger plans for you. So, you know, and then, you know, you get through that, and you start, you know, I have bigger plans for you. Well, you know, then you start thinking, well, man, you know, I've got a lot to live for. I've got a wife that has busted her tail to get me through up to that point. You know, I'm just laying in bed. I can't do anything. And she's pumping me. She has kept a pad with every bit of medicine she's ever given me, everything I've done, everything. I mean, she's got it down to a T. And she is busting her tail to get me through this, and I'm gonna give up? No. You know, I have a great family. Am I gonna give up on them? No. I have three beautiful little granddaughters. Am I gonna give up on them? Heck no. You know, I want to see them grow up. I've got a team that I absolutely adore. Am I going to give up on them? No, I'm not, because they wouldn't give up on me. So, we get through October, and October 21st, I'm in the hospital for about 3 or 4 days because I'm puking my brains out, and we can't figure out why. And this is another way that I think God works, that God was working on this, was I'm in the hospital and I'm just puking left and right, and I am miserable. I don't know what's going on. Doctors think it's because of your chemo and your radiation. Well, I'm there, and one night I'm laying in bed, and Nan's in the chair beside him, and I just come up out of my bed just like someone had just stuck a knife in me. I mean, that's what it literally felt like. Someone stuck a knife in me. And turns out to be, the doctor comes and sees me the next morning. He said, let's go sends you downstairs for some scans, because he was thinking it was my gallbladder. Well, we go down for scans, and on the way back up, I'm in my bedroom, wheel me around the hospital, which is embarrassing enough. But I look over and I see Dr. Grady Stevens. Now, Grady and I've known Grady since high school. He went to Prestonsburg, I went to Pikeville, but I've known him since high school, and he just lives right down the street from me. And so I look over, and there's Grady doing his rounds. I mean, how often am I ever going to see Grady doing rounds in the hospital? So I yell at him, "Hey, Grady, get over here." He walked over and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Man," I need this gallbladder taken out. He said, "What?" I said, "I need my gallbladder taken out." He said, "Well, let me check on it." So a couple hours later, he comes busting in my room and said, "I'm taking your gallbladder out." I said, "Do what?" He said, "I'm taking your gallbladder out." He said, "We looked at it, your gallbladder's gone." Okay. 2 days later, my gallbladder's out. Never felt better in my life. But again, I look at it as, man, God has his hands on you. Because what are the chances of me seeing Grady in the hallway in that hospital? And so we get my gallbladder taken out, and then finally on October 27th, I had my last radiation treatment. I get to ring the bell, and it was awesome. It was awesome. The next day, I'm so blessed to have this group of girls as my team. But the next day, I'm laying in the bed, and I hear all this honking and stuff going on, and it's them out having a motorcade out front of my house. They park on the side of the road. They had signs everywhere, and my neighbors come out and think, "What in the world is going on over there?" But I'm just so blessed to have them, and then we'll get through January 13th. I had my last chemo. Got to ring that bell, and actually had Matea and Haley Carr were there, watching me ring that bell. It was awesome. It was like, once I got finished with the radiation, once I got finished with the chemo, it was like God just lifted a big, huge burden off my shoulder. But God says that being a Christian isn't easy. He never promised us a rose garden. And I tell you, going through this ordeal humbled me. I mean, it brought me closer to him. Like I said, it knocked me to my knees. It humbled me. When you're laying there and you can't do anything for yourself, you have to rely on someone else. Are you kidding me? You know, I'm having to rely on somebody else. And it just humbles you. And he also says, in everything, get dry mouth there. In everything, give thanks. Not for everything, but in everything. There's a silver lining in anything you're going through. So, you know, what I was going through was awful. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. But there's a silver lining. The silver lining is, man, I had people from coast to coast that I don't even know praying for me. I mean, I'm on these different prayer chains that friends of mine put on their church. They put it on other churches. And I have tons of people praying for me. Are you kidding? And it's just so humbling. The phone calls I got, the text I got, you know, I got phone calls from friends, from former players, text, and it was, you don't realize how many people out there care for you until you're going through something. Got cards galore, flowers, people sending us flowers, food. You know, Nan went through, I think, what was it, a month or two, didn't have to cook. I mean, we had people sending us food. I couldn't eat it. It smelled good, but I couldn't eat it. But we're just so thankful for that. And a real humbling thing to me was, you know, I like doing stuff myself, and I don't like help because I can do it on my own. But you know, I had people. One of my best friends in this world came by 2 or 3 times and cut my grass. And, you know, these girls know how particular I am about my grass. You know, it humbled me. And then some of them, 4 or 5 of them come down, my players came down and raked my leaves for me in October because I couldn't do it. You know, and we were just so thankful. And one of the things that I'm extremely thankful for is while this was going on, I had a former player that we didn't get along real well. And we weren't on the best of terms when she left here. And she reached out to me, and we healed that. We started talking, and I asked her to forgive me, and she asked me to forgive her. I mean, it was awesome. And so there's a silver lining in anything you're going through. One of my old pastor, Paul Badgett, would always say, you're either going through a storm, coming out of a storm, or getting ready to go through one. I mean, it's no smooth sailing out there. And how you handle it you know, man, give it up. You know, give it up. Give it to God. Let Him take care of it. And through all this, I found out that the things I thought were important, they're not important. You know, they're not important. What's important is my relationship with God. I mean, I couldn't imagine going through what I went through not leaning on Him. Couldn't imagine it. And I don't know how people do it. Honestly, I don't know how people do it. And every morning I wake up. Every morning I wake up, the first thing I do before my feet hit the floor is I thank God for another day. Thank Him for an opportunity to make a difference in someone's life. I mean, I may not do it that day, but I have an opportunity. But it really, you know, it's really humbled me. And, you know, I sit, I'm thinking, you know, I'm so glad I'm saved. I'm so glad I'm saved because regardless if this cancer comes back or not, regardless, I'm going to be healed at some point. I'm healed. I'm either going to be healed through my doctors here, or if it takes me out at some point, hey, I'm healed. You know, I'm going to have a perfect body. You know, I'm going to have hair. I'm going to have hair. You know, so I'm not worried. I'm not worried. And, you know, my prayer is for you all. You know, I just pray that you all have accepted the Lord as your Savior. You know, you keep hearing, you know, I hear there's a highway to hell, but there's a stairway to heaven. The highway to hell is wide. Stairway to heaven is narrow. One way. There's one way. And, you know, Jesus said no one gets to the Father except through me. But, you know, during all this that was going on with me, especially in October, it reminds me of a poster that I'm sure a lot of you have seen. Footprints in the sand. Have y'all seen that? You have a man and Jesus walking side by side on the beach. And it gets to a point where he's going through some tough times in his life. And he looks back, after he gets through it, he looks back, and instead of two sets of footprints, there's one. And, you know, he said, Jesus, you know, during my tough times, you weren't beside of me. I only see one set of footprints. And Jesus said, my son, those footprints are mine. I was carrying you. And that's what he did. That's what he did. He carried me. And I will be forever grateful. And if it wasn't for me going through the trials that I went through, or the trials that we went through, you know, I wouldn't be standing here today giving you this testimony. Wouldn't be standing here telling you what he's done for me. So, you know, I'd like to end this with a prayer, if you don't mind. God, I just want to thank you for this day you've given us. And Father, I just want to thank you for each and every one that are in this room, in this gym. God, I just ask that you put your hand upon them, Father. You bless them. And Father, I just thank you for speaking through me. And God, I just hope that and wish that, you know, maybe this testimony will touch someone that if they don't know, you know, they don't know Jesus as their Savior, Father, I just ask that, you know, they turn their life over to Christ. And Father, I just want to thank you for this school. Thank you for what it's doing for all these kids and what it's doing for us as coaches. And Lord, I just ask that you be with us tonight and be with us always. For it's in Christ's name I pray. Amen. Thank you all.